My name is Carlos Rodrigues. I'm leading the ServiceNow practice at Fujitsu, Portugal. Here with me is Mark Revel. He is a senior advisor, solution consultant at ServiceNow. We are here to talk about the ServiceNow and Microsoft that established a strategic partnership to help organizations in their digital transformation. I will start giving an overview on ServiceNow platform, and I will give a very high overview also on the areas of integration between ServiceNow and Office 365 and Azure. Mark will go deeper on those use cases. As a global partner to Microsoft and ServiceNow, belonging to the very short list of ServiceNow elite partners, and having multiple projects done with a very experienced team, Fujitsu is in a very particular good position to help their clients achieving the best synergies provided by both platforms. This is the value proposition that both ServiceNow and Microsoft announced in the context of this partnership. Basically, to take advantage of both platforms and products to modernize IT services, automate processes, and give great experiences, user experiences to both employees and clients and customers. For those who may not be so familiar with ServiceNow, let me give you a quick overview on the platform. ServiceNow started with IT service management and is market leader according to Gartner and Forrester for the last 8 years, with a market share of more than 51% worldwide. The Now platform is a low-code and no-code platform, and it is the foundation for all the workflows, having a single data model and a single architecture. It has everything you need to create very quickly and easily your applications and processes, even by citizen developers. It has graphic workflows, unique CMDB, predictive intelligence, multiple catalogs, multiple portals, reporting, dashboards, analytics, predictive intelligence, among many other capabilities that the platform releases to you. On top of the Now platform, then you have the state-of-the-art workflows that ServiceNow provides for IT, like ITSM, ITAM, DevOps, for employees and for customers. To ensure a truly omni-channel experience, great experiences, they focus very much on the user interface and interaction with users and customers. ServiceNow provides mobile app, native, web portals, and integration with collaborative tools like Teams, giving the possibility for users to interact through Teams. That is a platform that they use every day, instead of having to go to the mobile or to the web portals, because you need to ensure an end-to-end processing across your organization. You have to integrate with the other third-party platforms that the organization have. So ServiceNow releases the integration hub with a lot of connectors, native connectors that they call spokes, and provides a lot of out-of-the-box integrations with more than 150 platforms. For the sake of time, I will basically identify the typical integrations between ServiceNow and Office 365 and Azure, since Mark will go deeper on the use cases. Regarding Office 365, of course, you have the integration with Outlook for approvals, notifications, surveys, etc. And we do it in every project. The integration with Teams is something that is very interesting and is very demanded by the clients to support the user interaction using NLU virtual agent. Like I said before, instead of going to mobile apps or to the web portals, people act with ServiceNow through a tool that they use every day. Mark is going to talk about it. SharePoint and OneDrive integrations are typically done to support site and folder management for the documents. The synergies between ServiceNow and Azure are multiple. For instance, with Active Directory, besides the obvious single sign-on, we use it to automate processes like the creation of users and assignment to groups in an onboarding process, for instance, or to support password reset or giving permissions to applications. Having the configuration items and applications mapped in the CMDB, you then use the Azure Monitor to receive events and alerts, to create actions in ServiceNow, like creating an incident or a change. Also very important is to have visibility of DevOps end-to-end processes. And this is very useful to prevent the silos of using several tools in the DevOps lifecycle, and very important to keep people working in their tools, in the tools they are more comfortable with. Okay. Using cloud management, you can also manage Azure cloud resources and lifecycle. Okay, Mark, over to you now.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Carlos, and overview. As you mentioned, I'm going to go into a few use cases, so a bit deeper, and I'll focus first of all around the ServiceNow integration into Microsoft Teams. And what that gives you is the ability to be able to give a great user experience to all of your end users, or requesters as we may call them within ServiceNow, to allow them to surface up some of the functionality within ServiceNow, but within Microsoft Teams. And a lot of this is driven around things like notifications. We've got a virtual agent as well. But from a virtual agent side, we can start to make that user experience even better. We can allow it to basically be that one-stop shop for any sort of support, be that from an IT perspective, HR, or other areas. What we'll see with this is it allows people to sort of help themselves. It allows them to guide through a process, to be able to pick topics, to use natural language understanding, so they can type, for example, I've got a printer problem, and it will help guide them through getting that resolved. And what we see with that is, from an efficiency perspective, not only is it more effective for the end user to be able to help themselves, but what we also see from that perspective is it's also a benefit to the service desk. And we see sort of call deflections of up to around 50% on sort of common requests. So how does all this work? Well, so ultimately what we do is we surface this within Microsoft Teams, and we allow them to go through this. And a lot of the functionality that gives them the biggest benefits is around virtual agent. But there's also other areas such as being able to have a chat, which I'll talk about in 1 second, and be able to get notifications directly into their Teams interface rather than necessarily it be via email, etc. Now, when they have a problem, if they use the virtual agent to do it, as I mentioned, you can use natural language understanding to step through it, or you can actually do a topic pick list and be able to pick them that way. You can get up to the areas where it will guide you through. It will either take you to a document that might help you from a knowledge perspective. It might give you a series of steps to go through. But ultimately, if that fails, you've then got some other options for the end user. And those options could be going directly to a live agent. So again, they can go to a live agent and chat through Teams from that perspective. And the ServiceNow person will be on ServiceNow at the other end, the agent who will be helping with that particular problem. And ultimately, they'll potentially could raise a ticket as well. And though you have two options, you can go live agent, raise a ticket, or you could just go directly and raise a ticket or a request if that's HR. So that's really a great way to be able to get these conversations, resolutions sorted as quickly as possible, and ultimately spend as little time waiting for example, a phone to be answered. In terms of some of the automation as well and some of the conversations that we have, here's some examples. We can actually automate some of those processes in the back end. The common one being password reset. We can actually go through and automate that directly into the product that you need to do that password reset, be it AD or another third party product. You can also go in and order things, so do requests for software, hardware, etc. Ask for new accounts, create directories, for example, within Teams or channels. And you can also go in and reset things. Typical things like, for example, resetting Citrix sessions or a VPN status. They could simply be done through an automated task. It will prompt the user with a few things to enter, and then all that automation will then happen in the back end within ServiceNow. And that will go off ultimately to something like the Citrix or the VPN provider to be able to fix it, come back with a success message, and then that problem is resolved almost instantly. Certainly a lot quicker than it would do if they just raised a ticket and waited for that to be serviced. So that basically increases speed, it increases productivity, and it increases CSAT from a customer's perspective. From the IT perspective or the HR side, it reduces that volume of tickets or cases, and ultimately reduces the cost of actually being able to resolve these problems for various users. So that's a great use case to be able to not only increase user satisfaction, but also decrease the cost from a service desk perspective. The other three use cases are a little bit more focused around the IT or security operations side of things. So I'm going to go through three use cases, one around our IT operations management and how that interfaces and uses Microsoft Azure data and how you can manage various processes through that. We'll also talk about DevOps, and finally we'll talk about security operations. So as we go into these, the first one really is around the cloud management from an Azure perspective. So one of the things that we always need to be able to do is be able to get visibility and understand what you have from a resource perspective, whether it's in the Microsoft Azure side as an organization, but also what you potentially still have on-prem. And that's quite key because a lot of customers are starting to run more hybrid type applications, and we're very focused on understanding those applications as a whole. So it's not all about all the individual resources. It's actually about being able to understand how they map to each other. So how that business service is ultimately made up. And by using ServiceNow, we can bring all that detail into ServiceNow. We can populate the CMDB, and using some of our common service data models, it allows you to understand the way those business applications actually work. That then leads great into the health side of things. So being able to keep these business services on 24/7. It's not an easy task. It never has been an easy task. But when you start to see problems and issues, being more predictive in terms of the way you can respond to that is really key. So using ServiceNow from a health perspective to look at things like Azure Monitor, be able to bring in events and alerts from various systems, really all helps not only the AI learn within the application, but also help that end user, the operator who still wants to be a little bit more hands-on, to be able to understand what's happening. But ultimately, what business service is being affected? A lot of the alerts and the log monitors are more around the individual parts of those applications, but you don't get that big picture. By tying this together using the data that we've seen through the visibility side within ServiceNow, you get that big picture. You understand what the problem is. You understand how many business services are being affected by maybe this single failing node. And that's really quite key to keep the business services up and working and make a resolution as quick as possible. And again, those resolutions can follow remediation, a little bit like what we spoke about earlier on. So once you've done that, if you're doing the remediation, or if you're, for example, spinning up a new service, we also have this concept of being able to do this optimization. And the optimization is really around cloud provisioning and cloud governance. And we can do that through a service catalog. Typically what you'd see previously would be service catalog to order laptops and printers and all those good things. But we can actually do that from a cloud services perspective for Microsoft Azure. So you can get a developer to be able to spin something up to be able to do testing, for example. We will put the governance around that to make sure the data, the instance is all spun up in the right sort of place, but also in terms of being able to manage where that data goes, manage how long it stays alive for, ensuring it's deleted properly at the end of the test. That can be all managed through that governance process. We also look in, and it leads nicely into the DevOps side of things. So from a ServiceNow perspective and Microsoft Azure DevOps, we have a great story in the fact that the Microsoft Azure DevOps is really all around what the developer's doing and how they're managing the work that they're doing, the sprints, etc., the pipelines. From a ServiceNow perspective, we're really around managing the processes, especially when you're getting into areas such as change management. So we want to make this more effective. We need to make this more productive and ensure that people are being able to do these things as quickly as possible. So what we'll again see from that perspective is being able to go in and see how ServiceNow integrates into the Azure boards, into the repos, and also into the pipelines. And it's a two-way thing. So we get that information, but developers stay exactly where they always are. They're working within their development tools. And we can interface into other products such as Jenkins, which I know a lot of organizations use, for example. Those sort of things, we're managing that sort of data model. Again, managing the process, using the power of ServiceNow from a workflow perspective. And an automated change is a key area within this as well. So being able to look at the automation, look at the change that we've got going, and be able to, where we think a change doesn't have to go through the traditional cab, which can be a lengthy procedure, it can actually be automated because all the rules, all the sets, all the data proves that actually it's ready to go straight away, can actually then lead to an automatic approval. And then we can go through the next steps, which are around actually rolling these applications out, which again, ServiceNow can help with that into, again, third-party tools. So we can do the provisioning, already spoken about that, but maybe going to things like Terraform and Ansible to be able to set up the applications within those resources within Azure and set up things like the monitoring so we can get that process running as quickly as possible, and we can start around more around sort of site reliability operations and working these new applications straight away. The final area I want to talk about really is around security. So from a ServiceNow perspective, security operations and vulnerability management are really key from a security and CISO perspective. And bringing the data in that we could get from Microsoft Azure Sentinel is really key towards helping with that. Again, it's around visibility, what the security instances are, what vulnerabilities we have, what threat management data that we actually have, bringing that into ServiceNow and using the power of the workflows to be able to manage those, to be able to tie the threat intelligence to the particular issues that we're seeing from a security incident perspective, using playbooks to help the analysts guide through getting these things blocked and then ultimately resolved. And also looking at things like configuration compliance is quite key to make sure that within the organization, configurations haven't been tweaked out of compliance and highlighting those and making sure we get those back into compliance as well. So it's really giving that level of confidence to the security operations guys to be able to manage these things a lot quicker, to be able to put a level of automation again around being able to manage these different areas to be able to get ensure we have minimal breaches, and using vulnerability response as well to be able to actually look at what vulnerabilities we have and being able to prioritize those and get those fixed as quickly as possible. Again, orchestrating third-party tools like Microsoft SCCM to be able to do those patching, as well as that interfacing into IT where they might have to do a manual process for that as well. So in summary, really we're looking at digitizing these work processes using and working in partnership with Microsoft around all the different areas that you can see on the right hand side of this slide. I hope this has given you a good overview of what we do from a ServiceNow perspective with Microsoft as part of our partnership, and I hope that this will help you make some great decisions moving forward.